investigators, Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy with this week's roundup of the weekly news as it happened in Australia in private investigations. This week we're looking at running your private investigation business, and we're going to meet two people who do that, who've done it successfully, and they're going to tell you about their journey and what they've expanded into. Here's Rob Morton.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my really great pleasure to welcome Rob Morton to our Friday afternoon program. Rob, how are you, mate? And can you tell us all about yourself, please?
Good, Mike. Thanks for having us. About me, well, I'm another reformed copper. So I was a police officer in South Australia for a few years, third generation, and then decided that policing doesn't pay. There's many more options out there to have fun while you're working. One of my principles is, if it's not fun, why do it? And that's what I've based my whole career on, really, is finding things that are fun, that I'm good at, trying to find my skills that fit in, or if I haven't got the skills, finding someone who's got the skills to make something happen.
Okay, so
I am a licensed private investigator. I've been a licensed private investigator since 2006. So in Queensland, I originally got my private investigator's license, which is how I came across Mike Evans. He helped me with some courses so I could actually unlearn some of the bad habits that the police force taught me to become a somewhat maybe okay investigator. At the same time as getting that license in Queensland, I was working for Gladstone Council as their coordinator law enforcement and their crime and misconduct commission liaison officer. So before it was the CCC, it was the CMC. And back then I used to work a 9-day fortnight with council, and on my 10th day I would do private investigations, being really the only investigator between Rockhampton and Bundaberg, really. That was sort of the area, and all the way into the middle. There were quite a few days that I drove a lot of kilometres, and I was driving those kilometres, I realised that driving the kilometres actually pays more than doing the investigations. So I really enjoyed doing the kilometres and driving. It was interesting to work in that area, in a remote area, and be the only person doing the investigations, because I had a lot of the clients that we were serving want things done right now, and you had to manage their expectations. So that was one of the things I set up early, was management of the expectations, so that people don't want you to do more than you can do. As a single operator doing private investigations, your time is all you've got. So every hour that you work, you need to make an hour that pays. Otherwise, you can get dragged down. So where am I now? I'm in an undisclosed location. I'm in Tasmania. We moved to Tasmania in 2011. And in Tasmania, we started doing a bit more training. When I was in Queensland, I started delivering some training for Mike a little bit, because the council up there didn't have any training and it was in the middle of nowhere. So we wanted to formalise the skills. And that has led down here to providing more training. So through that process and doing some other security training for people getting security guard licenses, I realised that there was a bit of a black hole in first aid training in Tasmania. When you rang up some of the saintly providers to get training, they would tell you that you could book in 6 weeks' time or 8 weeks' time. And I'm trying to do training for people to get a security license so they can get out there and work. If they don't have their first aid certificate, they can't work, so they're losing money. So I said, why can't I deliver this training? I'm a volunteer ambulance officer, partnered with an RTO, and now arguably we're the second biggest provider of first aid training in Tasmania. When you do give in the community, it comes back. So through your different associations, people will then recommend you. So I've had a lot of business come from recommendations for people that I've volunteered with, and people that I've done investigations for as well. Sometimes when an NGO asks us to do a workplace investigation, investigate some misconduct in the workplace, at the end of the investigation, every now and again, I'll put a discount of 100% on their bill. And then they after they've got up off their chair and said, "What do you mean you're giving us this discount?" it just means that they'll recommend you to someone else as well. So when you pick your bill, it might be a bill where you've only worked 3 or 4 hours, and you discount that, and then they're more willing to provide you with references or to send more work your way. It's about seizing opportunities. It's about thinking, oh, what can I do?
There's a whole lot more to come from Rob. Meanwhile, back down in Tasmania where Rob is, this gentleman, Mr. Bill Folder, was awarded a National SES Volunteer Award this week for services to the SES dating back to 1977 when he instituted the search and rescue in Tasmania for the wilderness. So Bill did a really great job of incorporating that some 43 years ago, all-round great bloke, Bill. He doesn't say very much. His friends have been ringing him up to congratulate him on winning this award, and he refuses to answer the phone. He's shy, he's unassuming, and if you were lost in the wilderness in Tasmania, in the snow, half frozen, half starved, wringing wet and bewildered, and Bill came round the corner and he was your rescuer, he would reassure you, he would get you to safety, he would warm you up, and there would be no better person to have coming along on your side than Bill Folder. A well-deserved award for Bill, recognition for all those years of service to the SES. Well done, Bill Folder, a great bloke.
Impressive opportunities I saw you seize had something to do with firearms. Can you tell us about that, please, Rob?
Firearms? Well, in Tasmania, the laws were changing about firearms again, and the storage requirements were getting more rigorous. So licensed firearms owners had to change the way their safes were, the quality of their safes. They had to look at security systems and cameras if they had more than a certain number of firearms on their property. People who were renting properties, it made it difficult for them because a landlord, if you apply for a rental property and say, oh, I want to bolt my safe into your property for my guns, they kind of look poorly on that sometimes. So seizing on that opportunity, we leveraged off one of another investigator that works with me has a property in a rural area, and we built a bunker, and that bunker we store other people's firearms in them for them. So for $1 a day, we'll store their firearms. So it means that people come to us. We've become licensed firearms dealers to do it. And we store their firearms. It also means that the police now come to us and say, there's a deceased estate and there's some firearms, can you go get them for us because the person there doesn't have a firearms license. We actually cut up more firearms than we store, which is nice as well. So people hand them over and say, I don't want this firearm anymore, or it was granddad's rabbit gun, it's all rusty, can you just get rid of it? So we actually chop up guns as well. So it's about looking at opportunities and just saying, do I have any skills in that area? What can I do? I was whinging one day to my wife about ramping at the Royal Hobart Hospital, and she was flicking through the paper when we still got the paper, so it was about 6 years ago now. And the paper in Tasmania is about 4.5 pages. And so when COVID hit, we couldn't do what the mainland did and use pages out of the paper for toilet paper because there's just not enough pages in the paper. But there was on that day that I was whinging. I may have been whinging for several weeks or months about ramping at the Royal, being stuck there for hours after I've already finished a 14-hour volunteer shift waiting for the Royal to take a patient. And she said to me, well, do something about it. There's a tender here from Primary Health Tasmania to assist vulnerable Tasmanians to access out-of-hours medical care. So we did. We put in for the tender, and I spoke to a friend who was a GP and said, do you know any other GPs who might like to come out and go to homeless shelters and out on the street and provide free access to medical care? We worked out that it was about $1,540 for an ambulance ride to the hospital and about $700 to see a patient without actually getting admitted at the Royal. So the savings for the community were there. We were successful, given a a small grant, and we use that to leverage off of our existing services and our ambulances to provide free access. So we take doctors out from 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. Monday to Friday and see everybody. So we see the people that other GP practices don't want to see. We see the people that forget to go to appointments, that can't afford to pay a gap to see a doctor, and we make a difference there. And that service employs 3 full-time people plus the GPs. So it's I don't make any money off of it, but don't tell my wife. But I also can't whinge because we do help ramping. We're stopping people rocking up at the Royal because they can't get in to see a doctor. So yeah, that's a photo of us out in the mall. We just drive into the mall and park and start seeing patients, and we get people wander up to us, and the patients get as much out of speaking to the doctor's assistant before they see the doctor as actually seeing the doctor. Someone's just having a good chat.
Okay, so you've heard there from Rob that he's gone to Tasmania. He started out as a private investigator, then he's got into first aid training because no one could train the security guards in first aid that he was teaching. Then he got into getting non-emergency transport patients and ambulances, and he bought himself a couple of ambulances. That all came about because of his volunteer work with the ambulance service in Tasmania. Then he's got into having GPs in the ambulances and secured funding through a tender for that. And he's also got his own business where he stores weapons. There's a lot more to come yet. Still in Tasmania, Dwayne's got a job down there for an investigation assistant for a couple of them. So if you're in Tassie and you're looking for work, get on the Australian Security Academy Facebook page where our jobs are. That's the one, and you'll see Dwayne's job there, and there's a link to it. So get in touch with him about that work that he has available in Hobart. It's there, it's real, and it's part of our investigation advertising service that we do.
And Rob, you do this also in New Norfolk and Bridgewater, which are 2 of the lower socioeconomic areas around. So you're not only just doing it in Hobart, you're doing it quite around the district.
Yeah, we go out to Rugby quite often as well, so which is an area of low socioeconomic background, a lot of government housing, and a lot of people that really need a little bit of support. So I guess what I'm sort of thinking about there is that in business, if you give back, more comes back as well. So a lot of those organisations, those can't even talk today, Mike. The not-for-profits that we do support and we give free access to medical care, those services actually then send their people to us for first aid training as well. So we give them a discount to go do the first aid training. So they're getting it cheaper, as well as also being able to use our services and see our doctors. So one hand washes the other. You know, it used to be said, and it's said in a bad way, but realistically, it's about everyone working together. So utilise those networks.
Do you have now, Rob, please?
We have 5, 6, 7 ambulances now. I've got one coming down from Queensland. You could have brought it down for me, but you know, you decided you wouldn't quarantine. Yeah, so we've got 7 ambulances, and we've got 2 business locations. We've got an operation in Launceston and also here in Newtown.
I will be down there in 3 weeks' time, Rob. We've got another bush and rural program down there, which is for a government department. He's Rob at our last bush and rural program in Tasmania. That's him.
Oh, there's the snow. That hat at the back there, I lost that hat on that. I'd had that hat for years.
Always felt terrible about that, Rob. And there you are walking through the snow. You got a first aid kit hanging off your bag, ready to spring into action in case
that
we
was
need.
An amazing course.
Yeah.
Mike runs every now and again a rural remote surveillance course, and he does it in Tasmania. I think the reason why he does it in Tasmania is because if you're not from the area you're in, you stick out like a sore thumb in Tasmania. And I think he said to me that if he could make someone as big as me blend in, then he could make anyone blend into an environment. So yeah, some of the skills that we had that we learnt there were amazing. We had some police officers from one of the state forces on that.
Yep, fire
Don't know if I'm allowed
brigade.
to.
Yep, police officers, that sort of thing. But the one we've got in 3 weeks' time, where we're actually holding it is a top secret location where the most drug dealers in Tasmania have gone missing and never been found. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I've got the sat phone if you need to borrow it, Mike.
Yeah. If you see an SOS smoke signal go up, it's me, Rob. Okay, so we've covered the ambulances, we've covered the firearms, the first aid training, the private investor. You were a bailiff of the court there sometimes through your networking. What's the future for Rob Morton and the Morton Group, please, Rob?
Okay, well, Rob's going to tell us all about his future.
So let's stay together. So let's stay together.
Top Secret is one of the worst movies ever made. It was made in 1984 and it stars Val Kilmer and Lucy Gutteridge. Val Kilmer is pretending he's like Elvis Presley in Europe, and basically he travels there and gets up to all sorts of spy stuff. Omar Sharif, star of Dr. Zhivago, is in this movie, and he has a few sight gags where they have exploding cigars and face cream and stuff like that, and a squirty rose. It's a bit like our product of the week. It's a woeful movie with sight gags everywhere. It has a scene of an underwater bar fight, it has a scene of a backwoods library, it has all sorts. These two actually team up as Batman and Alfred 11 years later. So it's the worst movie you could ever watch. Do yourself a favour, as Molly Meldrum would say, but don't watch it. It's terrible. It's not funny. It's supposed to be like Blazing Saddles or Top Gun, but never makes it. But anyway, if you really are bored and your footy team's losing, I suppose you could spend the 90 minutes watching it. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy.
Well, when COVID hit, we were really worried that we'd have to close down like everyone else was. What I did when COVID hit was I decided that I would make 6 months worth of wages. So I just went out and contacted all of my contacts and said to them, look, you're going to need hand sanitizer, you're going to need gloves, you're going to need masks. These are the things that you'll need to keep your businesses operating. You'll need disinfectant. So when COVID hit, I went to them and said, look, we can get this stuff now. Let's buy it early. And we bought a lot of things and got them out to our networks. I also ended up assisting the education department. We got sanitizer, thermometers, masks and gloves out to every school and hand delivered them around Tasmania. And that kept the schools, got them open faster here. So it's about what I've been doing at the moment is I thought I'd need to pay wages, and we did all this selling, and we made enough for 6 months' wages so that we could go into a little shutdown ourselves, and then the government announced JobKeeper. So we weren't eligible for JobKeeper because we didn't get a 30% reduction. So I worked and worked and worked, but so we haven't got anything from the government out of COVID, but that's okay. I kept everyone employed, and we've been in a strong position. We literally were the only provider of first aid and medication assistance training in Tasmania to stay open throughout the crisis. We dropped things down. We took our training from 20 people in a room to 2 students and 1 instructor. So we kept people trained who needed to be trained for licenses or for just for their work, and we improvised and we got through. So going forward, we'll be doing more of that. We'll be looking for opportunities, looking for ways that we can help, looking at areas where something isn't done well, and just doing it like you would expect it to be if you were receiving that service. And that's kind of what it's all about. You know, if you provide good customer service, people will keep coming back. I mean, how long have you been operating, Mike?
We're 20 years this year as the Australian
20 years.
Yeah.
And literally, customer service is what you guys do. You know, someone rings up and they say, "Hey, I'm here. I need this." You go, "Right. I'm going to reach out to my network. I'm going to find someone who can teach you that, and we're going to come along and we're going to teach it." A number of times you've rung me up and said, "Can you come and teach powers of entry for a local government?" Or, you know, something that I've done lots of. You find the experts and you take them out.
That's right. That's what we try and do. We're trying to always include other people and involve them in it and not pretend we know it all ourselves. So you hit the nail on the head. But look, I'm always watching my back with you, Rob, because you're growing. You're into this, you're into that. You'll try this, you'll try that, and it's just great to watch that success and to see that. It always looks easier than it is. Everybody has, their
grey hairs.
grey hairs, but they don't burden their clients with that. They get on and provide what their clients need, and you're one of the leaders in the field to get into Tasmania and to get up into the first aid training like that
As a non-Tasmanian.
As a non-Tasmanian with no standing start, is an amazing thing to do. It's not that they're backward or uncompetitive. They're very competitive because they've experienced a lot of downturns. They know how to survive. They know how to compete.
And they look after their own.
They do. And you get in there and start doing that, Rob. It's a benefit to the community, to the people who the community's forgotten in a lot of ways. You're supporting women, homeless women. You're supporting people from Aboriginal descent in Tasmania, and there's a lot of people like that throughout Tasmania, and a lot of people who've slipped through the system for medical support and stuff like that. You're giving back tremendously. It's a really great to see, Rob. And would you mind if you came back onto the program, keep us updated in the future?
Yeah, sure.
Good on you, mate.
Can't say no when you ask me on a live stream, can I?
Good on you, Rob.
That's why you're such a good operator, Mike.
Thanks for coming in today, mate, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the future. Come back on. Don't you just love live streams? Bad and sad news this week. This gentleman was found dead in Brisbane. He's a Queensland judge, Guy Andrew. He started exhibiting very strange behaviour in his work in the Townsville Family Court. He took on a QC in one court case there and berated the QC and made demeaning remarks to the QC. And he actually
displayed isolating behaviour as a magistrate in charge in front of the court. It was very, very strange. It was like he had low self-esteem and he was threatened by this QC. So anyway, as a result of that, they brought him back to Brisbane for retraining. He was actually exhibiting narcissistic behaviour in his profession. Excuse me. If you see someone doing that in your profession, where they have an extreme belief in their own potential, they're fixated with success at all costs, they're berating anyone who disagrees with them, they keep death lists and get even lists, that you've got to ask yourself, why am I letting this narcissist into my life? Because by accepting that, you're enabling it in the workplace. So keep in mind that low self-esteem plus public embarrassment for a narcissist can mean suicide. And I guess that's what happened in this case. I wasn't there, I don't know. But to keep it all in perspective, just look at the next chart. They are absolutely firm that their opinions are facts, that they know the absolute truth. Nobody else does. They're the only ones right. Everyone else is wrong. Other people using their free will the way they think their free will should be used can't be tolerated, and they're going to put people in their place. So when you see that kind of behaviour coming forth in the workplace, as an investigator, you're going to know when you're doing that toxic workplaces investigation for the bullying or whatever it is resulting from it, that there's some of the big issues with a narcissist. They're all on the left. You can watch the replay here later on. I'm not saying that's what all of those, what the judge did, but this is typical of what happens in a code of conduct investigation when you're dealing with an off-the-scale narcissist. Back into the good news this week, we've got also to speak to Patrick Henderson. Let's speak to Pat.
Hi, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome Pat Henderson to our Friday live stream. Pat, welcome to it, mate. Can you tell us all about yourself and where you work, please?
Yes, certainly. Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm looking forward to this. So, no, it's a great initiative that you're doing and what you're doing for our industry, mate. So, big congratulations to you, and the support's been magnificent. So, yeah, I'd like to thank you very much. And I know, getting onto a subject, I know a little bit about myself. Yeah, I thought it'd be good to get some exposure out there. Basically, I'm a 42 years old. I started my career off a number of years ago working in the insurance industry and worked my way up in a variety of roles, particularly in personal injury insurance in the Victorian market, and then later on went into national roles with a number of the large insurance companies that you see day to day. It was a great experience. I cut my teeth in the insurance market, and about 10 or so years ago, I just felt I needed a bit of a career change. And I had a good friend of mine by the name of Paul York, who was an ex-Victorian detective down here. And over a couple of beers one night, we hatched our big plan to set up an investigations company. And, looking back where we've come a great travelled a great distance and achieved a lot over the last 8 years. We officially kicked off in 2013, and back in 2013, I hadn't done an investigation, and all of a sudden, we're here today, a national investigations company. So it's very, very exciting. So it's been a great process to go through, and we've learned a lot, and had a lot of ups and had a lot of downs, but made us more resilient. And we're here today. And I guess to talk about a bit of the journey that we went on in this segment. When we first started, we started in a little office in West Melbourne. There was three of us. There's Paul, I, and a woman by the name of Tanya, who was our first admin support. And we sat down and we both shared an office. And what do we do now? And we're primarily a boutique workers' comp investigations company in Victoria, because that's really what I knew. That's the market I knew, and I knew it quite well. So we started off in there and honed our skills. And, got some really good momentum up. And then, our, I guess, mission and our strategy was to develop a national footprint in that space, and we gradually worked towards that, and we did so, and it's been fantastic. And when we first commenced, we were a joint venture with another organisation, and about 18 months ago we moved towards to doing management buyout, so which was great for us. It sort of assisted us in developing where we wanted to take the business to, and SureFact Mark II really commenced about 18 months ago, and since we developed SureFact Mark II, we've developed into other segments. So, if you look at us now, we're not a one-trick pony in the workers' comp personal injury space. We've got four general managers in our business. So we've got 4 divisions. We've got the insurance division, and in that division, I guess one of the things why I feel we've been very successful in that particular space is we've recruited and we've got a technical team. So we've got 3 technical managers that underpin everything we do in the personal injury space. So they provide instructions to investigators. When the reports come in, they do the quality assurance, and they present the information to, eligibility officers or case managers in a particular way that they can easily determine, whether liability is accepted or rejected on this particular claim. So that's been one of the fundamental pinpoints in our organisation where I think, that's, I guess investing heavily in that area has been, one of our keys to success.
All right, that's Pat starting off telling him about himself. We'll come back more with Pat in a minute, but let's have a look at our product road test for this week. This is real. It's fair income. You can buy it on the internet, but don't buy it.
Okay, so we're going to road test the Argo A Security American Quality Tradition Argo A Security Covert Compound Kit. Now, every private investigator must have one. This came in my email this week, so I bought it straight away, and it's got everything you're going to need as a private investigator. It's got artificial diarrhea, artificial blood capsules, diarrhea elicitor, vomit elicitor, burn, itch elicitor, flatulence elicitor, water-based liquid converter. It's got liquid purifier. It's got all sorts of things. You can imagine you're going to use this as a licensed private investigator. You sprinkle this capsicum spray over here on to the keyboard and see what happens when it gets stuck to his fingers or airborne. There's 1,000 uses for that as a licensed private investigator. You can use this sneezing powder over here. As soon as they start moving around, the effects begin and your subject will go into a sneezing fit. What a great idea. It's a fantastic Christmas present. Every private investigator has to have one. This one, it actually turns your teeth yellow, so you could be surrounded by bikies and go, stand back, or I'll turn your teeth yellow. This is what the FBI and CIA do with their compound things. This one turns everything that gets wet into a purple dye. So they leave purple footprints, and when they drink water, their mouth goes purple. What a great private investigator accessory. This is the Argo Securities Covert Compound Kit. The verdict is it's a fail. You'll never use any of this as a licensed private investigator. Do not buy it. Avoid.
Okay, back to normality.
We've also got the workplace risk practice, which is headed up by our general manager, Mary Mansell, and that looks at all corporate type investigations in the bullying and harassment space. Mary's background, she was a Victorian detective in the SOCIT, so Sexual Offences Unit, and, we were successful about 12 months ago getting on the DHHS panel investigating sensitive matters with children in care. So, Mary does a great fantastic job in that particular space, and reputation. We're getting quite a lot of work in that space at the moment, and then we also have our special projects team that. Our general manager in that space, his name's Danny Buckley, and he come across to us about 12 months ago, and he looks after, I guess, for want of a better term, our covert operations. So he manages that aspect. So, everything falls under that division, being, TSCM, technical surveillance, countermeasures, bug sweeps. He runs, and we run a lot of integrity programs for large multinational organisations looking at IP, counterfeit products, and that type of activity. And also our security risk consulting practice is managed out of that area as well, where, the current climate we're in, we're getting a lot of momentum in that space at the moment. And I guess from my own personal satisfaction, the jewel in the crown for our organisation is Sure-Fact Aerial. So Sure-Fact Aerial, is an emerging trend. I guess what is really pleasing for us is that we were in front of the curve. We adopted drone technology very early on in our development. We were using it from a intelligence gathering point of view in investigations. And then, with my background in risk and insurance and health and safety, we looked at there's actually other benefits using this technology in other industries. So, where people are inspecting assets at great height, there's a risk of people climbing, working at heights, climbing, the manual handling injuries and issues, aging workforce issues of, let's look at the power sector, for example. You've got an aging workforce climbing structures, taking assessments, trying to take photos of particular points on the asset with a digital camera whilst trying to hold on for dear life to the assets so they don't fall. So using technology is really the key for us, and it's been sensational. We'll do an asset. So historically, as I said, it's climbed, someone's taking photos, and it takes probably an hour and 20 minutes to inspect a large transmission tower. What we do is we use our DJI Matrice 300, which is the latest Matrice drone that there is, that has thermal camera imagery, has all the zoom requirements, everything like that. Don't have to get too close to the structure. Has what they call RTK, which is real-time kinetics. So there's no interference from these structures, and then the drone goes on and does what it wants to do. So from that point of view, it's absolutely fantastic, and we're taking 200 photos per structure. So when the engineers come and have a look at the preventative maintenance and there's not going to be any outages, they're actually getting better quality data and getting on top of these issues before they become a major issue. So, from that point of view, that's probably one of the most satisfying aspects that we're sort of pioneering at the moment in the drone space.
That's fantastic, Pat. It's quite visionary. You were into this a long time ago, the drones, before anyone else saw it coming. And I think you've established yourself very well moving forward in a lot of areas, and you're learning faster and more than those coming behind you. So well done on that. That's really good. I remember I was actually at Sure-Fact in 2013 on the day you opened at 9 a.m. in the morning by default.
That's right.
But I've never seen two busier people that heard a phone ringing so much in my life. It was a great day, and it's a happy memory for me. Okay, we'll be back with Pat, and he's going to tell you all about some job offers that he's got. But first, all-round great bloke Darren Maynard has recently been appointed as Investigation Manager for Brookside Investigations. So he said on LinkedIn last week he's really looking forward to taking that up. Brookside Investigations are really going to benefit from Darren's experience.
I often sit and wish that I could just change my past. To think about you, Dad, there's so much shit that I could ask. Like, why am I still haunted by the day that you left?
But Pat, look, moving forward, you're active in Victoria, New South Wales, Western Australia, South Australia, everywhere. Are you looking for any investigators currently anywhere?
Absolutely, we are. We particularly in New South Wales, we invested, I would suggest, in about June of this year to advertising, and we got a client relationship manager on board, and his name's Matthew Sito, and he's very highly regarded and has worked within the New South Wales segment in insurance, personal injury, and also in self-insurance, run large self-insurance programs up there. So he's a subject matter expert in that area and has a lot of connections. And we were lucky enough to get him on board. And I would suggest since June, he's just hit the ground running, kicking a number of goals, has increased our opportunities up in New South Wales tenfold. And therefore, our current stable of investigators, we've got a great team up in New South Wales, but we're expanding significantly up there, and definitely have a major requirement to get some good factual investigators on board, because we're getting some good numbers in the door at the moment. So yeah, it's very satisfying for us. So we're definitely on the lookout for factual investigators in New South Wales. And as a further to that, we're also looking for further investigators in our Victorian market as well, because we've been quite successful. We've got some good numbers coming through, and we've got a good number of investigators here that we've been training, and we want to further develop, but we also need further investigators in the door as well.
Thanks, Pat. Now, it's really important that people understand this is about workers' compensation investigation, code of conduct investigations, so workplace behaviour, inappropriate conduct, bullying, harassment, racial discrimination, sexual harassment, inappropriate use of resources, inappropriate application of power, that sort of thing. And they do the whole spread, but it's factual investigations. It's not rocket science. And if you do any one of those, you can adapt to doing the other. And Pat has the internal training program and support to help you be really successful at that and to earn an income from it. They also have occasionally the odd general insurance investigation, stolen motor vehicles, home arsons, home and contents, public liability, dog bites, that sort of thing. It's always interesting. There's never a dull moment. And they've got drones on top of it. I don't know how you do it, Pat.
Oh no, it's there's not enough hours in the day, but it's something I said to my team yesterday. It's so easy coming into work every day and working with such a dynamic team, and I'm very passionate about it. And our people are our number one asset, and it just makes it so much easier, because they're just fantastic to work with, and they provide a great product, and our customer service philosophy is very high, and they keep our standards. So yeah, very happy.
Good, Pat. Look, I love a person that's passionate about their industry, passionate about their work, proud of their achievements. It takes 7 years to become an overnight success.
Yes.
It's not easy. It doesn't happen on day one, but it builds over time, and it builds by looking for those opportunities with the drones, with going into general insurance, as well as workers' compensation and all those sort of things. And Pat, you've lived it and you've done it. In the future, I'd like to welcome you back onto the program. Pat, would you mind coming back just to keep us up to date with what's happening?
Absolutely, Mike. I love it. As I said, mate, I don't need too much encouragement to talk about myself. So, yeah, I'm definitely very keen to do that, mate. Not a problem.
Good on you, mate. Thanks for that. God, I'm absolutely stuffed after watching Rob and Pat going through all that. I've really run out of energy. But look, people, this is Pat on the left and Rob on the right. Listen to what they both said. They include other professionals in their PI business. That's the key to their success. Neither of them have met each other. Both have conducted over 50 nationally recognised training events on behalf of the Australian Security Academy, RTO 30547. That's me. Both these guys are always looking out for ways to expand and for opportunities. Now, don't tell them this, but I wouldn't employ either of those two for an investigation that was going to cost me $4,000. I wouldn't do it. what I would do is I'd spend 5 times that amount and spend $20,000 on both of them so they would write my tenders for me, because these gentlemen are competitive advantage expression professionals. They have never met each other. They have similar success and similar expansion, and they know how to win business from clients who have unmet needs. So you have watched today 2 people that have been there and done what you would like to do in your career, and you've even heard one of them wants you to go and work for him. And if you can drive an ambulance, the other one might want you to. But they're 2 people who have the ability to win business from clients, and that's what you want. When you win business, you hold on to it by delivering customer service excellence. Look, people, Pat Henderson and Robert Morton gave up their time for free this week. I really enjoyed having them on the program. It was very informative. It was much longer than I really wanted it to go, but I couldn't edit it down. They were too interesting. And as always, I've got to go out and we've got to say, well, basically, people, that's it for the week. We'll end with my favourite way.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
Our mission is complete. There was a lot this week. Dwayne's got a job down there in Tasmania. Still down in Tasmania, Bill Folder won that national award. Rob Morton, he is from Tasmania. So we better go out with a little bit of Tasmanian music.
And I just couldn't let go.
I'll be there in 3 weeks' time. No, sorry, 4 weeks' time, and I hope I don't have to do that dancing. Thanks very much for watching. See you next week on Australian Private Investigator News. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security.